Welcome to MSP Unplugged. I'm your host, Paco Lebron. This is a place to learn how to run your MSP, whether you're a nimble MSP or leading a team for the journey. This is the place for you. Let me go ahead and introduce my co host. We have none other than Mr. Rick Smith over at Renactus Technology. Rick, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, doing good. New Jersey's going through a little, we have some wildfires going on a little south of me, but glad to report I'm safe and healthy. And the skies is a little smelly and a little red, but life's good anyway.
I hear that. I hear that. Glad to hear that's all good times. I know you got a busy week this past week as well. All kinds of stuff going on in the Smith household. So hopefully
Yeah,
you'll see the light at the end of the tunnel there.
yeah. It's going to be actually. You'll hear me talk about this, going forward, but it's actually a very busy time. Things going on in the house. Glad to say Kennedy, who does the editing, my middle child who does the editing for us, will be graduating from college in 2 weeks when you hear this message. So
Oh,
in
wow.
2 weeks, she'll be graduating. So I'm a happy, proud dad with I'll be two down with college and one
One more
still
to go.
one more to go.
I hear
Then
that.
maybe I have to
Yep.
take a breath and stop working.
Eh, you can only hope, right? You can only hope. But it's going to be a really great episode that we're going to have for today. Super excited for the guests we're going to have. But before we bring them on, I want to talk about my favorite thing. I think it's your favorite thing as well, Rick, and that is TechCon Unplugged. If you haven't heard, we're on the road for TechCon Unplugged tour. This year is a little bit different. Instead of you coming to us, we're coming to you. We planned 3 cities on 3 dates, and we're now on our second stop in Chicago, June 20th at the Hyatt Lodge over on the old McDonald's campus. Right now, for our agenda, you're going to be joining us if you can, because we'd love to see you there. We're bringing you our first pre event of the year, and it's going to be a workshop from our friends over at MSP Camp, making MSP marketing easy. Highest ROI first steps to take in your marketing. And if you've heard Tahir speak, it's no fluff and it's always great value that have for you so you can have those action items to take home with you. We'll have a live in audience podcast as we're discussing what you're doing now to improve and scale your business. And along with really, I think we're gaining a lot of steam with this, our live MSP office hours, now known as the roundtables, to discuss what's on your mind. We'll be talking about things like AI, operational efficiency, how to avoid tool sprawl, and open the book as we're all running our business, us meaning Rick, Corey, and myself, really just to continue that conversation. And we're going to continue that conversation on the evening social as we do with every tech con that we have in previous years. Again, this is less talking at you, more talking with you. As we've said in the past, every voice matters. Head over to techconunplug.com and you'll be able to purchase your ticket there. And we hope to see you there in Chicago. All right. Super excited about this episode, Rick. Well, how about you?
Sorry, I was muted, but I am definitely excited about this episode. I'll let Paco do the intro, but I just want to say, we spent a lot of time at conferences and we see a lot of a lot of interesting presentations. This one really caught my eye, and Paco could tell you he wasn't present, but we were at the same conference. And I called him immediately. I said, "This was awesome, and this is something this is probably the most I've learned in a quick, short presentation in a long time." So I was really impressed. So I'm really glad our guest has decided to join us.
And I will say that, we sat down with this individual at lunch. We just happened to catch him, and we were conversating. And my wife, who is a marketing strategist for over 10 years, was super impressed from that conversation and even took some of just those quick conversations we had at lunch on really focusing on, again, what this episode is known for is we calling it the LinkedIn advantage, boosting your MSP presence. But instead of just talking about the individual, we're going to go ahead and bring them onto the screen here. And we have Richard Bliss, who is the CEO of BlissPoint. Richard, how are you doing this fine Friday?
Paco, I'm doing well. Man, you guys just built my introduction up there. How am I supposed to live up to that?
Richard, again, we're super excited because, again, I think as what Rick and myself had talked, we only had just Rick attended your session. I only just had a quick conversation with you during lunch, but we were just so blown away with the way that you really offer or discuss social selling, specifically on LinkedIn, and that is a platform that I really love to just engage in. immerse myself in. That's really my platform of choice. And so to hear someone really diving in so much onto that platform, because we do hear about other social media platforms or social media as a whole. And I'm excited from just reading up on you from the past couple weeks on some of the differences that people should be treating LinkedIn versus other social media avenues as well. But before we kind of go into all that in the episode, I really want to talk about, can you share a little bit about your journey and kind of what led you to be a subject matter expert in social selling in LinkedIn?
Sure. Sure. And I'm laughing because, well, so just a little bit of background. In 1995, so we're going back 30 years, I developed a solution and an idea that allowed companies to take their email systems and their networks and then connect them through a central party, through something that was brand new, the internet back in 1995, and then allow a central party to manage those services, and then they wouldn't have to do it themselves. Something we call managed services today is something that I invented in 1995. And at the time, Gartner said, Richard, we don't know what to call this thing. And what it was is we were doing email services where we would host the email as a pass-through system, allowing us to do spam scanning, viruses, the I love you virus and the Melissa virus that came out in the late 90s. I was on CNN because I was the leading expert on how to prevent your company without deploying antivirus software on every desktop with a managed service provider. CNN had never heard of it as well. So that gives you a little bit of a background out of the tech world. So when I met the two of you at the conference, I have to admit, I was walking around saying, wow, we've come a long way in 30 years, right? We've come a long way. But here's what happened. I was the chief marketing officer over a company that was doing this type of services. I had built up my name around the world. I had spoken in 22 countries. I held my own tech conferences, helping people understand how to do this. And then I was recruited by a company to be their chief marketing officer. And they didn't have a whole lot of money as a startup. So I agreed as their chief marketing officer to act on a commission only as a marketing individual, not sales, but marketing. We had a whole sales team. And with my expertise and everything, we built that business up from less than 1 million to over $10 million. And I was making pretty good money. And the founder called me up and he said, you're making more money than I am. He fired me and gave my job to my wife.
Wow.
Yeah, wow is the word. Awkward is another word that you would use with that. Suddenly, I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, think about it. I was the face of this industry. I had been everywhere. I was known, and suddenly, what am I going to do? Right? You can't go work for a competitor.
Got to be interesting.
Yeah, I have 2 ex-wives. Now we know kind of why. And by the way, my wife, I remarried. We've been together 10 years. Our anniversary's tomorrow. She's in the other room giving me that look, right? She's giving me that look. She's like, really? You're talking about me on a podcast? So what happened then was I had to reinvent myself. And so suddenly I find myself trying to teach myself things. This has been almost 15 years ago. And it was, right, how does social media work? How does LinkedIn work? How does Twitter work? How does podcasting work? I started a podcast that ran for 10 years. It was very successful. Focused on Kickstarter, crowdfunding. You guys are familiar with Kickstarter, aren't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys want to take a guess what the #1 funding category is on Kickstarter? What raises more money? They just crossed $2 billion on Kickstarter for a single category. Any idea? I'm putting you guys on the spot. It's supposed to be your podcast now. No?
Can't say that.
No idea.
I don't know.
Board games.
Really?
There are 500 new board games on Kickstarter every 30 days for the last 14 years.
Interesting.
And I know you guys have probably heard of some. I mean, Cards Against Humanity. You guys heard of that, about that game? Sure. Yep. That's a Kickstarter project. Other ones that aren't Kickstarter, Catan, Ticket to Ride. These are games that have become so popular. Well, the reason I bring this up is because I picked a topic to learn and teach myself social media. So I have a Twitter handle that's got 25,000 followers talking about board games. I taught myself how to use social media by finding a niche that wouldn't impact my brand or my industry. My podcast was geared, it was called Funding the Dream, teaching board gamers how to raise money on Kickstarter to fund their dream. Well, this led to an opportunity where a technology company reached out to me. I live in Silicon Valley. They reached out and they said, look, we're looking for somebody who can write. I had just published a book. I'm glad they didn't read it because I self-edited it and it's got all kinds of typos in it. I had a podcast. They said, we need somebody in Silicon Valley who understands technology, can write, works with executives, is available immediately, and is willing to do it for $800 a month. Are you interested? And I said, yes. And here's why. Because it wasn't just any job. The individual I was going to be working with, I was going to help him craft his online presence. He had no social media presence, no on Forbes. I was going to start helping him write content on Forbes. His name was Tom Mendoza. He's the former vice chairman and president of a $6 billion company here in Silicon Valley. His name is on the side of the business school at the University of Notre Dame, Mendoza College of Business. It was like, this is an opportunity to open a door into, and what happened is that's exactly what happened. Now, that's when the ex was like, okay, I've had it. I'm out of here. You're taking a job for $800 a month. Best thing that ever happened to me, by the way. But we'll just keep it between us. Best thing that ever happened. But that's where I found myself, reinventing myself. Now, suddenly the general counsel wanted my help, the chief human resource officer, the chief revenue officer. Suddenly I'm training the salespeople, all of that simply because I had taught myself these skills and stepped into it. So when it came time to kind of look at a new transition, these executives came to me and said, don't go work for somebody. Do this yourself. And my wife, my 10 years we've been together now, she stepped up and said, I'm willing to support you. She's in tech as well. She said, you go make this happen. And so the anniversary of our wedding anniversary is this weekend, but also the anniversary of the company was 6 years ago that BlissPoint was launched. And I continue to work closely with Silicon Valley companies, their salespeople, their CEOs, teaching them how social media works, particularly LinkedIn. And so that's a long story. It's an interesting one, but that's kind of how we ended up where we're at.
No, I mean, it's fun. It's ironic, and I find such joy, and it's funny. I don't talk like this, and Rick knows. Where hearing that story is the fact it mirrors something similar to a lot of entrepreneurs, and including myself, where you find a partner that have made that investment in you so early on, and then now you're at the ability that you can return that investment, and so that's exactly what's currently happening right now. And because again, when I started dating my wife, and I've told this story multiple times back 8 years ago, that was probably like when I just started on my business full time. It was rougher than rough, hiding the car from repossession. And then there was a sheriff that came to serve me for a bad loan, and we were only dating for 2 months. And so if there was ever a time for her to run, that was the time. And
that was it.
And she stuck through it. And so obviously now we're married. And so, but now I have the ability that things have shifted such in an opposite way that now I can return that investment that she has had in with me. So definitely find that.
And you can talk about it, right? You can talk about it as a journey. We all have them, the journeys that we've gone through. And oftentimes the more harrowing the journey, the greater the outcome, right? That we get on that other side. So that's kind of how I started in this. And it's been a fun ride as we've gone along.
Absolutely. No, so I appreciate you sharing that. And again, congratulations.
I appreciate you shared that as well.
It makes for authenticity though, for every person out there who's striving. It's like, and again, I'm sorry, I just want to add to this really quick. I think that the more people, I hear this a lot from people who have quote unquote made it or have gotten over the hump, is that the journey was more really satisfying than the actual result, because you realize when you get there what you overcame and what it made you to get where you got. Yeah.
And in my case, my wife and I have been together for 10 years, but she saw on the sideline, unaware to me, she saw the journey I was going through and the mess and everything that was happening. And so we had become friends over the years. We actually happened to work together at the same company. And it took a friend of mine because I went back into when the divorce happened, I went back into the dating scene. I was just a mess. I had nothing. It's like, what am I going to do? Is anybody going to be interested in me? And right, you're just like, you've got. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. Paco,
Why are you laughing, Rick?
I know
right?
exactly what you're talking about.
Right. And then all of a sudden, in my case, it took me a friend. This is what he said. We're having dinner and I'm complaining that it's just like, this is nuts. Right. And he said, Richard, you don't know what you want. Look, if you want somebody who's financially stable, look in tech. If you want somebody in your life who is fit, go to the gym. Or if you want somebody who's smart, join a book club. As he said that, I realized that my wife's name's Stephanie, that Stephanie and I worked at tech together, hung out at the company gym, swapping books from her book club. And I literally said, I know that person. And the next day I asked her out on an official date. We'd hung out. We'd been friends for years. And I all of a sudden it was like, oh, wait, really? That's what it took? I mean, smack you in the head. I know that person. Next day. And here we are 10 years later. So that works.
It's funny how things just, when you're around them for so long and then you just have that moment that wakes you up.
Moment.
Again, very similar situation as well.
But I don't think we're here to talk about my love life.
That's what I was going to say. So we'll bring this back into, for those that are tuning in, right, and really referring to on obviously the title of the show, the LinkedIn Advantage, right, and really I want to dive into LinkedIn strategies, but specifically, there's something you have said and you have published that on some of your articles, or an article that I did read, was you referred to LinkedIn as the upside down world of social media. Can you explain what you mean by this and how it impacts social selling strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to social media, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, X, YouTube, whatever aspect of that, they are driven by a revenue model that does not involve us per se. Their revenue model is, we will get advertisers, we will take content and drive content in front of our users so that they are stuck there, hooked there, doom scrolling there, so we can extract the maximum amount of their attention to bring benefit to our customers. And their customers are paying advertising companies. That means their money model, their revenue model is designed to use us to drive revenue for their customers. LinkedIn, only 20% of LinkedIn's revenue comes from advertising. That means their revenue model is completely opposite. And that means that who is their customer? Well, LinkedIn Premium users. That would be some of us. LinkedIn Sales Navigator users, LinkedIn Recruiter users. The emphasis here is users. Some of my clients spend millions of dollars a year on these tools. Mm-hmm. And these tools mean that LinkedIn wants to make sure that you and I continue to be happy on their platform, getting benefit, not being sold to by advertisers, but getting benefit from you and I connecting to each other. And that's where the revenue model comes in, is that they know that if we are happy, we will continue to pay money for these tools and access. I don't know about you, but if I had to cut off access, if I had to pay for my social media platforms, right? I'm not paying for Facebook.
Right.
Although I think I said this in my presentation that Rick might have heard, I would lose connection with my mother. So maybe I have to keep my Facebook account, but nobody's going to pay for their social media accounts.
Right.
But on LinkedIn, people pay $11 billion a year for their LinkedIn account. And that means the business model is radically different. That means the algorithm is radically different. It is not there to benefit the advertisers. It's there to benefit us, which means that the things we do on LinkedIn, on the other social media platforms, sabotage our efforts to be successful on LinkedIn.
Now, what are some of the common mistakes people are making on LinkedIn that could hurt their engagement that you have seen?
A couple of them. One is, let's call them Instagram posts. I'm walking on the sand. And so I'm like, here I am on the beach and sand in between my toes. That makes me realize what life's all about. It's like, serious, right? And they get 10,000 likes on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on their Insta account, and they throw it over to LinkedIn and it's like crickets. It's like nobody cares about that.
Right.
And it's not that the topic, it's that the audience is like, I didn't find that valuable.
Right.
For example, if you and I were texting back and forth and we're done with our conversation, how do you let me know, Paco, that you're done with the conversation? That you got it. We're done. What do you do on a text? How do you tell somebody you've got it? You're good.
Thanks. I'll talk to you later.
Maybe there's a shorter way though. Rick, how about you?
Just don't respond anymore.
Ghost them. Okay. I mean, we're not right.
That explains a lot.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Or we give them a thumbs up.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Right? Yeah,
okay.
thumbs up. Got it. Right? Conversation's over. I got it. Good. Well, on LinkedIn, when you give your thumbs up to that post that you saw on LinkedIn, you basically said, I'm not really interested. I got it. I don't really need to see any more. You basically have indicated, I didn't really find that interesting. Well, wait a minute. Why did you click the thumbs up? Well, I wanted them to, I saw it. Yeah, but LinkedIn doesn't care if you saw it. LinkedIn wants to know, did you find it valuable? Yeah, I clicked the thumbs up. Go ahead.
Now does that include all the other reactions or just
all the other, no, a reaction.
All
and
of
I
the
use the
things
thumbs
they
up.
give you.
Yeah, do they give you the praying hearts? I don't know if that's a thank you or a prayer when they do the hands together. Or
I never know.
don't
That's a very good question.
But the point here is that you haven't actually added any value to that content. You haven't given it a strong indicator that that content's valuable. What LinkedIn's looking for is, did your content start a conversation? Did people stop, consume it, spend time on it? They're measuring that. And then did they leave a comment? Did it cause them to stop and participate in a conversation with you, the author, or with other people in the conversation? And so commenting becomes your secret to LinkedIn. Also, you throw a link into your post. Well, LinkedIn cuts your reach by 50%.
Yeah.
Because they've come out and said, you guys have been on LinkedIn recently, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me something you did on LinkedIn recently. What'd you do?
I commented on 3 posts.
You commented on 3 posts because you heard me speak. Okay, we'll get to it. The point here is you went and did something very specific on the platform. You probably weren't just doom scrolling.
Correct.
And generally speaking, you have a limited amount of time to do it. Oh, I've got just a moment here. Let me go out and do this one thing. And LinkedIn's engineers have determined that a link interrupts both of those. It disrupts why you were there. And it robs you of the time that you had set aside to be there. Because if you go off and watch that YouTube video or read that Forbes article, you're probably not coming back because you don't have any more time.
Got it.
And so they kind of limit that. That's why you see people say, look for the link in the comments below.
Mm-hmm.
They're bypassing that penalty. I recommend you get penalized a little bit if you're the first one to comment on your post. So instead, just make the post go live. Don't include the link. Edit the post. There's 3 little dots. Just click the edit button. Drop in the link. Resave it. You're good. You don't have to wait. Nothing. You're good. Now, here's a couple other things. Auto posting. If you're auto posting, you know what I mean by that? That you're just setting it up and you've got some tool that's automatically dumping content on there. Well, LinkedIn knows that. They know you're not there. Mm-hmm. You're literally not on their platform, and they're just using them as a dumping ground for your marketing content or whatever it is you're dumping on them. They're like, we're not going to show this to anybody. You're not here. Why should we show it to anybody? And when I say not show it to anybody, it's a very small audience that's going to see that. Reposting. Reposting is an interesting example on LinkedIn. When you go and hit the repost button, LinkedIn does not send it to your followers. Okay. So Paco, you've got 4,910 people following and connecting to you on LinkedIn. When you hit the repost button, LinkedIn shows it to 49 people.
Wow.
And Rick, in your case, as I look here, Rick, you've got 759 followers.
I got some work to do.
You got some work to do. And 7 people see your content when you hit the repost button. Right. Now, that's not what we think is happening. Why would they do that? Because if we all have common connections, and we do, the 3 of us have common connections.
Yeah.
If we all hit the repost button and it went to everybody we're connected to, our common connections would see multiple copies of that showing up in their feed over and over. And LinkedIn's like, that is not a good experience.
Yeah.
Also, hashtags. LinkedIn doesn't really use hashtags anymore. You can put them in there, recommended about 3, but please do not do an Instagram wall of hashtags because LinkedIn will penalize you. You know what I'm talking about, right? That you get this many hashtags. LinkedIn's like, no, that serves no purpose here. Tagging, using the @ symbol to tag somebody. If you do mass tagging and tag a bunch of people, LinkedIn sees that as spam. And if those people don't come and engage with your content, then LinkedIn's like, they're not interested in it. You invited them to the conversation. Why should we show this to more people? These are the types of things that regularly penalize you. And you're looking for what starts a conversation. Now, generally speaking, text only does a very good job of driving a conversation. Text with personal imagery, something that is personal. The 3 of us, we took a screenshot. This would be a personal image. It doesn't have to be a selfie. But when you start using stock imagery or cliche imagery, your engagement often drops by 75% because your audience sees it, gives it that universal thumbs up, and moves on. Though imagery does not cause people to actually stop and engage and leave a comment. Now, this is all general. So this is when you ask me, these are some of the things that we naturally would do. Lots of hashtags, tag everybody, throw up a link, add a graphic of somebody on the beach with sand in their toes, and I've got a perfect Instagram post.
Now, I know you mentioned in the past too that you believe text-based content is more effective than video on LinkedIn for generating possibly either leads or just generating conversations or interest. And obviously we've become in a world where we're now told video is important. Video has to be your number one strategy. Can you share a little bit about why you believe that text-based content is actually more effective than video on LinkedIn?
Yeah, now video. So people sometimes hear me speak and think that I said video is bad. Video is not bad, but it takes you 2 hours to create that video. You got to get it right. You throw it up there and you're probably not going to get as much engagement as you will, because people will watch it. And now LinkedIn recently has started tracking specifically how long do they watch it. If your video is 30 seconds and people only watch it for 15 seconds, then you have a 50% consumption rate. Well, okay. But if I have text and I've got, let's say 100 words of text, LinkedIn kind of knows how long people should spend on that post reading it. And if people actually take that time and read it, I've got a near 100% consumption rate. And so my video oftentimes makes it hard for people to engage with the video. You'll get impressions. You'll even get views. You have to watch 4 seconds for LinkedIn to consider that an actual view of a video that somebody watched it, a minimum of 4 seconds. But the challenge is with video now, and I like video just like the next person. But if you put out let's say a 45-second video, and you said something at the 30-second mark that I found fascinating, what do I do with that? I'm on my mobile device. I'm walking down the street and I'm going through LinkedIn and I see your video and I start watching it for about 30 seconds. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I liked what he just said. What do I do? I mean, seriously, what do I do with that? Do I clip it and save it?
What he just said. Right. That's all you can do is say, I like what he just said, because
I can click the like button.
To take the time to comment, but
maybe I could comment, but I had to comment, right? My point here is that oftentimes video is very hard to consume information that you want people to remember, because it'd be like, watching a movie and trying to remember one scene and capture that information and then share it and then still try to remember the whole movie. My point here is that video can work, but it makes it difficult for your audience to consume that content if you want them to remember something. So what I recommend is, if you're going to put a video in there, give them something to read. Give them something to read, 100 words. So that they don't have to watch the video. I'm going to read your text. I'm going to find it so fascinating, I now want to watch the video. And so go ahead.
It's even interesting to the way that they changed the way that you upload videos now on LinkedIn, and they're now in this like Reels format that it's even harder to even find the commenting or to like or engage with that post as well.
Because it's going through and you're getting 15 seconds and then off to the next video. And you're seeing so far this year, nearly 300% drop in video reach And even just recently, you're seeing like a 75 to 80% drop in video engagement. And so video has dropped significantly off over the last 3 months. Last year, it was being artificially boosted by the LinkedIn algorithm because it was new. And TikTok was imploding, and Instagram was coming out with so much reels. And so LinkedIn's like, hey, let's get in on this bandwagon. And they boosted those video feeds, but now it's coming way down. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying be thinking about the fact how your audience consumes that content and then what they do with it afterwards. And that's one thing I think, Rick, I'm going to come back to you because you sat into my session and my session was 30 minutes. And one of the key things I wanted to make sure in that session was that when people walked out of that 30-minute session, you had actionable things that you could act on immediately. And the challenge is when you're watching a video, it's really hard to have any type of actionable thing I'm going to do right now, unless I'm fixing my washing machine. And then I'm going to go to YouTube and I'm going to stop and pause as I put the nuts where they're supposed to go.
Yeah, right. It makes sense. Yeah, because again, I was just thinking about the way you just presented it. If you're listening to a video, it is kind of hard because the other thing too is I make a comment now, you like it, but then you comment or there's more that goes on. So it's hard to kind of.
Yeah, and we all have our,
what else is going on.
And we have our sound turned off anyway on our mobile devices. So there's a good chance I'm not even going to hear what you had to say. Now, in fairness, yesterday I was presenting to a group of CEOs in San Francisco, and one of them had put out a video, and I watched it. Why? Well, because it wasn't a talking head like us right now. It was him standing inside the Marine War Memorial. And I'm a vet, and it caused me to stop. Like, what is that? And as he was talking, he says, yeah, here's what I was talking about. I said, unfortunately, I have no idea what you were talking about because I was watching the video and I'm reading the subtitles, but I was more looking at the video. And so I said in front of everybody, I'm sorry, but I have no idea what you said, but it was way cool what I saw. And so we have to remember, if we're trying to convey important information, then we need to think about the written word is how people often contain and consume that. If we want branding and impressions and people to see us, video can be very effective for that.
Gotcha. Now, kind of talking about, we've talked about the text and really being able to, the importance of that and really just being able to drive that engagement. Can you elaborate more on like the importance of comments and conversations on LinkedIn, where like how can users leverage that for better engagement for either themselves or for posts that they're doing as well?
Absolutely. So let's just take an example. When I hit the repost button on a piece of content, like Rick, I'm looking at your profile right now. And about a month ago, you put out something about the Commodore 64. Caught my, right? If I hit the repost button on that, it's going to go to 1% of my audience, 1 out of 100, 10 out of 1,000. If I create my own post like Rick did, it's going to go to 10% of my audience or 100 people out of 1,000. And Rick, in your case, it's going to go to 75, maybe 76 people because you got 759 connections. So you're going to get about 75 people generally see it. But if I leave a comment's going to go in front of 30% of my audience. And so Paco, in your case, with your nearly 5,000 people, that means 1,500 people are going to see your comment. Only, you're going to get maybe 500 see a post, but 1,500 will see a comment. And here's what's interesting. When you make a post, it's being seen mostly by your audience. But when you make a comment on somebody else's post, your comment is being seen by their audience. And when you want to grow your brand and your awareness faster than anything, what you want to do is start commenting on other people's content. But here's the challenge. We are so trained by Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter that our comments are usually directed almost as a private conversation with the individual. Paco, I'm going to put you on the spot now. The last comment you made yesterday was, sounds like an amazing time, Jose. That comment went in front of 1,500 people. What did they learn from that comment?
Nothing, because it was directed toward that one individual instead of speaking to the 1,500 that was in. Yeah.
It would be like you and I having a conversation right now and forgetting that you have an audience listening to this podcast.
Right.
that we just have some inside conversation that doesn't give any context to our audience. Commenting is the secret to LinkedIn. Commenting is where it happens. So when you leave a comment, 30% of your audience is going to see it. And if somebody comments back, 30% of their audience is going to see your comment. And so this is how you start to have a conversation. So for example, let's just I haven't looked at this. I'm literally doing this live as we pull it up. I'm going to see what you said to Jose, because what you were saying to Jose was that Jose had a post all about, and he tagged all those people. You need to have a conversation with Jose to help him understand how to start talking.
I do, for his first annual event. I do.
Right? And he's talking about the Latino and Latino-owned construction professional services company serving the Chicago, and he listed out a bunch of them. So unfortunately, things is but he got some good traction here. Your comment could say, sounds like an amazing time, Jose. Having worked with you in the past and knowing the impact that you're having here in the Chicago area, particularly in the Latino community, it's exciting to see how this organization is coming together and so many people are being brought in, different organizations to support and make such an impact. Love this post. Love what you're doing. Thank you very much. That comment has all the context that your audience needs to know who you're talking to, why you're talking to them, and why it's relevant to them. Because you're kind of talking to your Chicago audience.
Yeah.
That you're networked. Now, and LinkedIn recently has started to show us on the desktop the number of impressions our comments are getting. Yes. Not just the number of impressions our posts are getting. And it's your comments that's going to drive the awareness. And Rick, you made this allusion, and I'll just share it now to your audience. You alluded to this, what I said about homework. Listen, the listening audience, if you go and do nothing but leave 3 comments a day for the next 5 days on other people's content, you're showing interest in them. And when you show interest in them, you become interesting to that audience. You'll see a 300 to 500% jump in the number of people looking at your profile in a week, simply because you started participating in other people's conversations. But it can't be sounds like an amazing job. It has to be
more thought
something that adds to that conversation so that the listening audience has context and understands how you're using, why they should care about your comment. And we need to remember that, yeah, it's great that I'm talking to Paco on this comment, but I need my audience to understand, because they're listening in and I don't want to waste their time. This is going to show up in their feed. I need them to understand the relevance for me and for them about why I'm making that comment.
Yep. Now, I know that you had also mentioned for better engagement and to influence the success of a LinkedIn post, you have a 60-minute rule usually as well for commenting.
Can you generally speak more into that? In the past, we call it the golden hour. You've had about 60 minutes to prove to the algorithm that your content should be shared with an audience wider than that 10% test group. Now, that has been changed. The new LinkedIn algorithm report comes out as the recording of this on Monday. We're recording this on a Friday. On Monday, the new research report comes out. And it still shows that commenting in the first 60 minutes has a huge impact. But now, it used to be just a year or two ago, 75% of your impressions happened in the first 24 hours. That has now dropped. It's about 50% of your impressions happen in the first 24 hours. So that commenting rule is still applicable, but now you get 48 to 72 hours is that other 50% of the reach. LinkedIn's starting to lengthen the impact of your content to about 72 hours now. And here's what's interesting. If after you make that post and you get an engagement going, people talking, you got about 60 minutes, but then in about a day or two, if you go back and hit the repost button on that same post, just hit the repost button. Don't add any comments or anything. Just on your own post, hit repost. You may see a 50% jump in the number of impressions because you're putting it in front of a new audience that maybe didn't see it the first time around. And so this is kind of new. This is all within the last few months that we're starting to see this change. But generally speaking, you've got about an hour, maybe 90 minutes to prove to the algorithm the content is worthy to be shared beyond your 10%. What this means is you need to be present. You can't pump and dump. You can't post and ghost. You can't just put it out there and then walk away. And so if you leave a comment, if you make a post, you need to make sure you're there to respond to the comments so that LinkedIn sees that you're participating in the conversation that you started. And this is important. And so if I look at a post, Paco, I'm looking at you again. You got a post a little while ago that got 3 comments on it. Taylor commented, Dean commented, and let's see who that last. I don't see the last one. But you didn't respond back. You started a conversation about super stoked to announce the MSP camp coming TechCon Unplugged tour Chicago stop 2 days ago. Some people joined into the conversation. They're excited too.
And in return, yeah.
And you ghosted them, right? It's like, oh, I guess I should be more participatory. And LinkedIn's like, yeah, we would like to see you be there. If you're going to post and start a conversation, we would like to see you. Oh no, you did leave a comment, but it wasn't responding to them. It was simply commenting and putting in the link to your post. Got it.
Yeah.
And so in that case, you guys didn't know this was going to be a LinkedIn roast when we got
it's definitely good. I mean, I think about it this way. I'm sorry to cut you off, Paco. I just think about it this way. I watched your presentation. I was so impressed, and but I still have not taken the step to put into practice what you're talking about. And that is probably the harder part. Now, when you say, and this is what I'm thinking about, when you say you have to be present, that's kind of hard. So how do you manage that time, I guess, that process?
Well, the good news is that you don't have to be posting every day. Minimum at least once a week. But maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and you're good. Mm-hmm. What you should be doing is setting aside a few minutes every day. Let's say 15 minutes every day for 15 minutes to say, I'm going to go and leave some comments. And there are some ways that you can track that. I do this in my deeper training that I do for corporations, is to show you how to create a list of contacts that you want to stay in front of. You want to see their content. You don't want to keep, looking them up. There are ways to create lists that you can easily follow and then go leave a comment. Now, Rick, I'm looking at your last comment. Paco, I'm still at it. I'm sure I got a few more surprises to come across. I think my Apple is up there as well. You got close. I know who you're talking to. I'm not quite sure what you guys are talking about. But then you said another comment, the small intimate setting of this work group made for very productive day. East Coast MSPs always bring the heat. Looking forward to Chicago in the summer. Oh, that was a lot better comment, wasn't it? Your audience saw that. They understood that. So you taking a few minutes every day, say, I'm just going to go comment. Some partners, some listeners, some customers. I'm just going to go comment and add value to their conversation. They're going to give me the context. I'm just going to add to it, knowing that my audience is listening. And so if you spend 10, 15 minutes a day, suddenly you're going to find the influence that you have. You're not spending all that time creating the perfect video or writing the perfect post. No, you're not there just chatting away, talking to people, adding to that conversation. And then once a week, twice a week, you're putting out your own post. That makes it a much more manageable approach than trying to do your Instagram 6 times a day. Oh, that was another thing. If you are an Instagrammer, you only get 1 post a day on LinkedIn. Meaning you could post more often, but LinkedIn only tracks 1 conversation at a time. So you make a post in the morning, LinkedIn starts tracking it for that first hour, and then it's watching it and engagement. If you post another post later on that afternoon, LinkedIn's like, we're still tracking the first post. It'll just hide it from your audience. It'll be on your profile, but it won't be in the feed of any of your network.
Oh, interesting.
And then the next day, if you post, it'll shut down the post for today and it'll start promoting that conversation. So if you've got a post that's doing really well, don't step on it. Just let it run for a day or 2. Hit that repost button and keep it going and then post something. So this idea that you have to constantly be pumping out content isn't necessary. Be consistent, but you don't have to be overabundant.
Now, the question on the reposting, I know that there's repost and then there's repost with your thoughts. Is either one more effective on the conversation? Okay.
And it's the upside down world, Paco.
Yeah.
So it's going to be the opposite of what you think.
Okay.
If I hit the repost button and you really would like people to hit the repost button. The two best things that people can do to send a strong signal, well, they're not the two best. If you can get a comment, that's best.
Mhm.
But if you can get them to hit the repost button, that's a strong signal to the algorithm that they found it interesting and they wanted to share it with their audience. Now, LinkedIn's not going to share it with their audience, but they really wanted to. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you can get them to save your post, that's the strongest indicator that they found it so interesting they want to keep it for later. So if you can get those two actions, but here's what you just brought up. Okay, I'm going to hit the repost button. I'm going to add my own thoughts. Or in other words, I'm going to walk into an empty room, repeat everything you just said, and leave my comment to nobody who's listening. If you have your own thoughts to add them on the post. Don't make a copy of the post and then try to talk to an empty room. If you have something to say, so hitting the repost button without your own thoughts gives it massive value. Hitting the repost button and adding your own thoughts gives it a third of the value.
Interesting.
Because LinkedIn's like, you just tried to copy somebody else's conversation and added your own thoughts. Why didn't you just participate in the conversation in the first place?
Right.
And I think one of the harder concepts to get to grasp in all of this is when I'm listening to you, and I don't even think I caught this the first time. I can say the words, and then now I just realized the impression is when you put a post, everybody sees it, right? And that's just the automatic thought. Everybody who follows me or who's in my feed or whatever sees it, and now you realize that it doesn't go to everyone.
It goes to a tiny sliver of that audience, and then. Because on the other algorithms, they show it to as many people as possible, and then you get engagement. Right. And then you get that engagement conversion rate, right? It's like, okay, I got this many people, this much engagement. Here's the percentage of engagement rate. Mm-hmm. LinkedIn, no. LinkedIn shows it to as few people as possible, and then it sees if it drives engagement amongst that tiny sliver. If it does, now let's show it to more people. So it's the exact opposite, upside down world here, of how the upside down world is going to show it to as few people as possible and to see if you kind of get engagement from that. And so this is some of these fundamental differences. Now, here's a reason why you want to post at least once a week. If you get a new connection on LinkedIn, so by the way, that 10% that sees your content, that is not random. The first at the top of that list is going to be anybody you've connected with in the last 2 weeks. If you've connected somebody in the last 2 weeks, so you guys, we all met at the exchange event in Orlando, and I'm headed back to Orlando for the next event on Sunday. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to just see each other's content. LinkedIn's artificially going to force our content into each other's feed because we've basically swiped right on a dating app, and it wants to see if it's serious. So it's going to put our content in front of each other. That's over the next 2 weeks. So you want to put some content out there on a regular basis so that those new contacts see it. In addition, if anybody that you're connected to has looked at your LinkedIn profile, so I have Rick and Paco, I've looked at both of your profiles on this show, which tells the algorithm that I'm interested in you. Which means the very next thing you post on LinkedIn will automatically be shown to me in my feed the next time I log in. Wow. Automatically. You don't have to tag me. You don't have to do anything. So that means you should probably be creating content on a fairly regular basis for those people who are paying attention to your profile and are interested in you, that they're going to see that content. Then if there's anybody you've commented on recently, they're going to be put into your feed. Anybody you've liked, smaller chance, but they might be put into your feed. If you've saved anybody's content, LinkedIn's going to shove more content into your feed. But your audience right now, and probably you guys as well, have kind of a random scattered feed. Yeah. It's just full of just some random stuff. Yeah, well, that's your fault. You have been training the algorithm. I want to see this random stuff. I'm liking my buddy from college whose kid just graduated from middle school. Oh, I'll like that. Oh, you want to see more of that? All right, we'll keep shoving more of that random stuff. Oh, I see somebody who did something, got a certificate. I'll like that. Oh, you want to see more of that? Your feed is being filled by the people that you have been showing interest in. And if you want to change it, it only takes about a week. Start purposefully engaging, commenting, resaving, and reposting content from your specific audience. And the LinkedIn algorithm in about a week will flip that feed so you're starting to see the relevant content of people that you want to see. My feed, I got a lot of people that follow me on LinkedIn. I'm connected to a lot of people, and yet my feed is very clean because I tend to only engage with the type of clientele I work with. Multinational companies, startups in tech, often law firms and legal. I deal with a lot with that. So my feed is filled with the very content I want to see. There's very seldom I see something random from LinkedIn influencers or gurus who are trying to sell you some course or something. I don't see any of that.
Yeah, I don't. And it's funny you say that because since I run obviously the MSP, ProdigyTeks, and then me and Rick run MSP Unplugged, I tend to engage more on everything involved in MSP Unplugged. So my feed is toward that feed versus anything relevant to my MSP of my clients who I service, things of that nature, on how that's kind of changed on there on my own personal profile. And I know we've had this conversation of engagement on our own profile, but I was curious on your opinion, because for those listening, they'll probably have a company LinkedIn page as well.
They do.
Our conversations today are specifically of our own individual LinkedIn profile, correct? And not of the company?
That's right. I've been talking about that. So on the company page, Paco, can I use yours or should I use Rick's? Whose company page should I use here?
He's probably got more followers.
All right, let's do Paco's company.
Get better.
All right, we're going to take a look at and it's called, I'm taking a look here. It's called ProdigyTeks.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's take a quick look at ProdigyTeks. So you have 625 followers on ProdigyTeks. Mm-hmm. When you post something on that company page, it goes to 2 people.
Oh, interesting.
2%. Did I do the math right? Let's see. 1% would be 6. Oh, I guess it goes to 12 people.
12 people.
Yeah, it goes to 12 people. There you go. Much better. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that number so small. Right. 12 people see your content on your company page. And if you want more people to see it, that's 2%. You need to pay money to run ads to boost your content. But here's the thing. On your company page, people don't want to really read text. They want to watch videos. That's why they're on your company page. They want to see graphics and information and infographics. And that's why they're on your company page. They're not there to read some text. They're there to see and consume specifically. And they've probably allocated some time to actually do it. And so on your company page, it's everything. And here's the thing. The fact that your video or a repost is only going to be seen by a couple. What am I trying to say here? It doesn't matter what you're doing on the company page. Add the links, throw in video, because nobody's seeing that content anyway. Mm-hmm. So doing these things isn't going to have a negative impact on you're still going to get 12 people.
Sure.
But if you wanted to put something out from ProdigyTeks, don't put it on the company page first. Instead, you post it first.
Okay.
And now have the company page comment on it, save it, repost it, so that it then comes to the company page. Because now it's going to go to 1% to 2% on the company page because they reposted, which is about the normal reach anyway. But because they did that with your personal page, it's going to boost that personal content, but it's also now going to be moved over to the company page. And then I would use your company page to regularly go out and comment on people. Comment, engage, resave, repost, because now it's your ProdigyTeks profile is going to be, the awareness is going to be raised amongst people seeing you comment as the company, not just as the individual. So this is a great way to build your company brand, Rick, as fast as possible. as fast as possible. So yeah, there we go. Message received. Now you know what to do.
I know we're toward the end of the episode. And I think you mentioned it early on as we joked around before the show started. We can probably go on for hours talking about this. My last question for you, and I mean, it's been such a great conversation. We definitely have to have you back if you have the time and later down the road. Future trends. We talked a little bit about the research report that's coming out next week. What changes do you foresee that we haven't talked about in LinkedIn's algorithm or just social selling strategies in the coming year?
Well, you're seeing a lot more people. The report is showing that a lot more people are engaging. A lot more people are posting content. Well, hang on. When I say a lot more, I mean, it's gone from like 4% to 4.8%. Okay. But we're talking about 1 billion people. And so a 0.8 or 1% increase in that is a lot of people. So you're seeing a lot more engagement. You're starting to see the algorithm punish the broetry bros. The broetry bros are those people who are posting content. You've seen it's like one line. I'm going to share something amazing. Then you get a blank line. I can't believe I've shared this with you before. Blank line. It changed my life. Blank line. I know it'll change your life. You know what I'm talking about? That broetry. Yeah. LinkedIn hates that. And so that kind of spacing and gaming is starting to be diminished in its effectiveness. You're seeing virality drop by 80%. Most of your clients, most people listening are going to say, my posts are seeing so fewer impressions. Yes, because LinkedIn has come out and said, we don't want you to put content to go viral. We want it to be relevant. So they're trying more and more effort to find the audience that would be interested in your content rather than just a general audience that somehow you gamed the system. I also think they're going to crack down on pods. Pods are groups of individuals who pay money to artificially comment and inflate each other's posts. And you can spot these. There's a couple of ways you can spot these people. If you see a LinkedIn influencer out there and man, they're crushing it, look at all these comments. Yeah, go look at the comments and you'll notice that they tend to be an AI generated comment. They tend to be, I had a woman reach out to me. I was doing a presentation in person, but she was listening on video and she said, hey, I've done all the things you've talked about. What can I do better? I said, well, let me take a look at your profile. And I noticed that she got 50 comments on every single post, plus or minus 5. So one post got 45, one got 52, one got 48, 55, but every single post. And so I texted her and said, are you using a pod? Are you using an artificial group where you drop your content in and then these people reciprocate by commenting? Because for that consistency on every post, she never texted me back. You're going to see the hammer come down on this kind of behavior. And so, and it's disingenuous. You're also going to see LinkedIn continue to find ways to drive home the idea that we want your content to be relevant and we want it to be interesting and valuable. So they'll continue to tweak the algorithm to benefit conversation, to benefit interaction, to show interest, and then to help you grow your own brand, but not making it viral, but by making it relevant.
Gotcha. No, that's a great insight. Yeah, and it's interesting because it just sounds like those pods are similar when you used to buy likes for.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
And, you know, it's just it's amazing that that's still a thing going on here as well.
Can I wrap up with something here? Yeah, We've been talking about LinkedIn from what I call a marketing and branding perspective. And that is, how can I get more people to see my content? How can I be more relevant? But what I really, and you didn't get that in my 30-minute presentation, but the real power of LinkedIn comes in sales. And oftentimes when we talk about sales on LinkedIn, we throw out a lot of the stuff that we've just talked about for the last hour. And we approach LinkedIn from a very different perspective. I work with 3 organizations inside every company: the CEO executive suite, the marketing team, and the sales team. And yet those 3 are at odds when it comes to LinkedIn's results. Marketing wants as many people to see the content as possible. Executives want to be perceived as thought leaders and have something to say. Sales wants to close deals on specific individuals that they've connected to on LinkedIn. Well, they don't care about how many people see it. They want to know if that one customer saw it, that one prospect. That means the behavior of these 3 entities is radically different. We have been focused on the marketing side. The sales side, and we'll have this in our next conversation, is how to get prospects to reach out and connect with you before you send a connection request to them. In my training, I say the last thing you should do is send the connection request. What you should do, I've got an example of where my team went to a conference And at the conference, there were 100 prospects. Of those 100 prospects, 100% accepted a connection request from my sales team. 100%. And 22 of them accepted a sales call follow-up immediately. Why? Because we used a very specific technique and usage of LinkedIn to get the prospects to pay attention to the sales rep without feeling slapped with content. That's what we can talk about next time, and how you can use LinkedIn as a sales tool, not just as a marketing and branding tool. Let's wrap up on that. Does that work?
No, I love it. No, absolutely. Rick, any last words before we have Richard give out his info?
I wanted to say this for the listening audience. You did hear Richard say on the next conversation, so we will continue this at some point, hopefully very soon. He's a busy guy, but we're going to try to hunt him down and see if we can get some more of his time. But I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us today. It was great meeting you in Orlando when we met. And
it was.
As I've said again, I was very impressed with it, and I'm so glad that you came to share your knowledge with the audience here.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and I look forward to being able to come back.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate you making the time, especially on a Friday morning. So definitely appreciate that. If anyone wanted to engage with you, talk to you, just pick your brain or just see where you're at, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Obviously, to follow me on LinkedIn. That's the easy one. It's linkedin.com/in/Bliss, BLISS. That's the URL. You pretty much look Richard Bliss. Whatever you do, don't Google Richard Bliss San Diego. Whatever you do, because I fail a security background check every single time because of that. So your audience can go check it out. You guys can check it out and say,
I remember that conversation.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
We had that conversation. Yes, I am not a Russian spy, no matter what Wikipedia says. All right? But that's the best way. Or I've got a URL that's easy. They're TheRichardBliss.com. THE, TheRichardBliss.com, TheRichardBliss.com. And you can go to my website that way. So find me on LinkedIn or find my website. We'll put you in touch with my company and the services that we provide, mostly to tech companies who are looking to grow their revenue through sales training.
Awesome. So again, Richard, really appreciate you coming out. And for all of you tuning in, tune in every week. You can catch us on the video podcast, which is on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and you'll be notified whenever a new episode is available. You can also take us with you on the go on your favorite podcatcher app. We're on Amazon Music, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts, to name a few. And also, don't forget, get your tickets over at techconunplugged.com. Once again, thank you for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.